Welcome to your exercise nutrition masterclass. So today we're going to be focusing specifically on nutrition for your training sessions themselves. What to do before, what to do during, what to do afterwards. We've got a really nice simple blueprint to share with you so that you can just get off and straight away start making sure that you're optimizing your nutrition straight away. So we don't want anything too complex. The more complex everything is, the less likely we're going to be implementing it. So it's going to be super simple. All of the really key important stuff is just going to be there and present. Anything that's complicated and unnecessary has been stripped out for you so that you can get to work straight away. Okay, so these are the different topics that we're going to be going into. First up, hydration. We're going to be going into the meal timings and composition. So we're going to be taking a look at some examples as well. And also we're going to be taking a look at the updated protein research. There's been some really interesting research that's come out, and it's going to be very useful for you to understand that research and exactly how you can implement that in and around your sessions. So to begin with, when it comes to hydration, we really do need to make sure that we're prioritizing those fluid intakes throughout the day. A lot of people get to their training sessions and they basically see if they're feeling thirsty before the session, or even during the session. Now, what I want to get you to do is to take a bit of a step back to begin with and think about hydration as something that needs to take place over days and days and days. So ideally staying optimally hydrated as much as you can all day, every day. It does have an impact on your training session. Hydration affects strength training, it affects endurance, it affects your recovery, other areas like immunity, micronutrient transportation, and of course just your, how you experience the day on a day-to-day basis as well. So things like concentration and focus, even within your sessions, your perceived rating of physical exertion can go up if you're in a dehydrated state. So you're going to find that you experience that session as being tougher when it really didn't have to be. All you had to do is make sure that you're focusing on your hydration. So particularly on the strength side of things, if you're doing resistance exercise in the gym, for example, maybe you're working out online. Now, we do need to just think about the strength side of things in particular, because when you're dehydrated, a huge chunk of your strength outputs can be reduced if you're starting your session in a dehydrated state. So like we said, we need to be hydrated before the session, during the session, and after the session. So an ideal amount to begin with, a minimal amount is 2 litres per day. It's likely to be sort of closer to the 3 litres mark if you're training quite intensively for a long period of time. Also the environment matters. So if it's quite a temperate environment, the temperature's quite high on the day. If it's humid, so maybe you're away on holiday training or something like that, maybe you live somewhere that's quite hot and humid to begin with, your hydration needs are going to be much higher. So just think about those needs and think about that spectrum between generally 2 to 3 litres is where we're going to be placing ourselves. And again, if there's a combination of those different factors that I've just described to you, then it may even need to be more. Hydration's absolutely key and is going to be helping you with all of these different areas and a massive, massive priority for your training sessions. So I have a little diagram here for you. So it's like a target, I suppose, with the workout being in the middle. So on the left-hand side, you can see a line going straight through all the way across to the right-hand side. And that basically symbolizes the time. So when it comes to your workouts on the big circle on the outside, this symbolizes what happens in meal 1, 2 to 3 hours before and after your session. Meal 2 is a little bit closer, so the inner ring is in around about 30 minutes. Again, this is a guide, by the way. It doesn't really matter if it's 20 minutes if that works for you, and it's not going to disrupt your workout or give you stomach cramps or stitch or anything like that. It could be 45 minutes. So again, it's a guide, but just really nice for diagram purposes. If you notice, if you follow the timeline, meal 1 is the exact same 2 to 3 hours before the workout and 2 to 3 hours after the workout. Meal 2 is also the same, in and around 30 minutes before and after the workout. So the reason for this is that the composition of those meals don't have to be vastly different in you know, the makeup of those meals. And of course you've got the workout in the middle there. So on the outer ring we've got slow. So if you take a look at the diagram just at the bottom there, 2 to 3 hours is slow digesting foods. So that accounts for carbohydrates, fats and protein. Carbohydrates and protein in particular. The composition of the meals on the inner ring, so the number 2 meals, these are much faster digesting food sources. So what we need to happen is, in and around the workouts, we don't really want things that are slow digesting 30 minutes before a workout. Obviously that's going to sit in your stomach. And for a lot of people, it's going to cause that stitch, that feeling of, you know, you've got a big chunk of food in your stomach that's not digesting very effectively. However, when it comes to the slow digesting foods, we're going to get a much bigger meal, basically, in those meal ones. So 2 to 3 hours before and after the workouts. A nice guide is to have something that's slow digesting on the carbohydrate side, the protein side. Because it's slower digesting, you can get a lot more substance within those meals. So a higher hit of protein, a higher hit of carbohydrates to map out in advance for those meals. And of course for the recovery side of things after the meals as well. So let's take a look at some simple examples of what we mean by those type 1 and type 2 meals. So the type 1 meals, like we said, in and around 2 to 3 hours, pre and post workouts. By the way, again, I just wanted to really hit home that this is a guide. So some people can have a meal, let's say 90 minutes before, and they really don't feel as though that it affects their workouts at all. There's not really any consequences or side effects. What I will say is, for me personally, for example, I'd be the 3 hours plus mark. So 3.5, maybe even 4 hours, depending on the workout and depending on the composition of the meal as well, because I'm quite prone to stitch and stomach cramps and things like that. So again, this is all down to individual preference more than anything. So meal 1, some examples could be homemade turkey burgers. We've got couscous and some mixed salads. So we've got some micronutrients going in there as well. Obviously turkey burgers, couscous. Couscous is a complex carbohydrate that takes longer to digest. Same with the turkey burgers on the protein front. Excellent examples of good quality protein, carbohydrates, and of course some micronutrient content going in there from the mixed salad. We've got chicken curry with brown rice and peas, grilled salmon, sweet potato wedges, and again with some roasted mixed veg, jacket potato with homemade chili and salad, fajita wraps, lentil dal. So you can see here these are larger meals, and we've got a nice balance of protein, carbohydrates and some micronutrients in some way, shape or form going into each and every one of those meals. When it comes to the meal 2 meals, so this is in around 30 minutes pre and post exercise. So as you can see, half a whey protein shake before and after training. Again, it depends on your protein goals. You might have a full protein shake. It doesn't have to necessarily be half of one. But you know, if you wanted to take one with you to the session, you could have half before and half afterwards, if that's a little bit more practical for you. Whey protein is very quickly digested, so it's perfect for a meal 2 type meal. A small protein based sandwich, so again on white bread, something that's low in fibre, that's going to be quickly digested, so you can have a little bit of quality ham or egg or chicken or something like that, but again in a small quantity, so it just accelerates that rate of digestion because there's less food there to be digested. We've got the protein smoothie before or after training as well. So in this example, there's more ingredients going into that. So it could be peanut butter, it could be milk, it could be banana and honey, for example. So again, you can get creative with these as long as they're fast digesting and smaller in quantity generally. You can have these before and after your workouts too. Half a protein-based energy bar before and after. Half a protein-based flapjack. Again, bonus points if they're homemade as well, because we do generally want to make sure that we can know exactly what's going into our food in the ingredients list. It's much more preferable than having one that's been made in a factory for you with lots of additives and other bits and pieces going in there. Not all additives are a problem by no means, but again, it just makes it so much more simple when you know exactly what ingredients are going into your body before and after those workouts. So in summary, meal 1, like we said, 2 to 3 hours plus before and after that workout. Much more complex, slow digesting foods. That meal 2, sort of 30 minutes pre and post exercise, faster digesting and also smaller in quantities, just to make sure that you're fully prepped up for that meal, and also for the workout, of course, and also that meal afterwards. It's fast digesting after the workout, so you're going to be starting that recovery as soon as possible after that particular workout too. So on the protein side of things, it used to be that within the protein research, we did think that there was a bit of a maximum per meal on the protein side that could be utilized for the purpose of muscular growth and generally muscle protein synthesis and recovery. Now, is it better that it's spread out over the day? So let's say if you're having 4 or 5 meals per day, maybe we thought at the time it was better to have 20 to 30 grams per meal, spread out over those meals each day. Now, some recent research has really good quality, high quality research has taken place, and the research basically had people consuming 100 grams of protein in one go. So instead of spreading it out over different meals, 20, 30 meals, grams per meal, what happened was they had 100 grams in one meal instead. And the research showed that all of the 100 grams of protein was fully utilized and was just as effective in comparison to spreading out over 2, 3, 4, 5 meals per day. So just bear in mind that when it comes to your workout, after your workout, it was previously believed that there was a bit of a window where, like a Goldilocks zone, I suppose, where if you're consuming protein within that window, maybe a couple of hours after your workout, that's the best time to be consuming that protein. Now, what I will say is the research over recent years has clearly shown that there's actually a 2-day window. It's much more likely to be up to 48 hours. It's not just merely going to be hours, a handful of hours after the workout. So don't stress if you're not getting the absolute perfect protein timing straight away afterwards and it's spread out throughout the day. What I will say is, for the purpose of muscle protein synthesis, this is absolutely the case. Let's say, for example, if you're short on protein one day, let's say you're getting towards the end of the day and you're struggling a little bit, you've not been hitting your protein targets. If you just go and have a meal that's 50 to 100 grams of protein in one go, that absolutely will be just as beneficial. It will top up those protein intakes and you'll be absolutely fine with that. Now, what I will say is in reality, we have to inject some practicality into this. Is it practical to have 100 grams of protein for breakfast? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's probably quite difficult. Or, for example, for your lunch or for an evening meal, it's just more practical to spread it out throughout the day. So what we will say is, in practical terms, we probably still will be spreading it out throughout the day, but it's good to know that it can fluctuate. So some of the conclusions from the research, some of the top guys in the nutrition research were basically discussing, if you can have 100 grams of protein on one go, is more and more better? What about 120 grams? What about 150 or 200 grams? If you could have that in one go, hypothetically speaking, is that going to be better and better then? Now, there is a ceiling over the course of the day. More and more is not necessarily better. So we do need to have a predicted protein target per day, so that we understand that that's where we're trying to get our target protein intakes towards. So let's say, for example, we'll just use a basic example just for ease of maths. Let's say an individual was 100 kilograms. They weighed 100 kilograms. They worked out, let's say, 4 times per week, quite intensive sessions, taking it relatively seriously. Decent sessions, a good hour each. So their muscle protein needs are going to be a little bit higher. So within the range of 1.2 to 2 grams per body weight. So let's say this individual had, they placed themselves in around 1.6 on that scale. So 1.6 multiplied by this individual's body weight in kilograms, which is 100, equals 160 grams of protein per day. So if we just said, for example, this individual had 2 meals that were 100 grams of protein in each meal, it's much more likely that 40 grams of that protein is not going to be utilized or give any additional benefit, because their protein needs for the day is 160 grams per day. So obviously if they're consuming 200 grams per day, there's 40 grams there that is probably going to be better utilized in calorie terms, being spent on things like fat or carbohydrates. So again, more and more isn't necessarily better. We can't just keep going to 200 grams and 300 grams and 400 grams and expecting additional gains above and beyond for muscle repair and growth purposes. So making sure that we're trying to aim for those targets. And of course, this new research just gives you a little bit of indication for timing purposes and practicality purposes. So in summary, we have hydration. Of course, we're looking to stay hydrated before the session, during the session, after the session, ideally all day, every day. We've obviously showed you a nice simple diagram, like the target method, if you want to call it that, for the timing and composition before and after your workouts. Also the updated protein guidelines. We've given you some examples of meals as well in and around that target method. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing you on the recovery nutrition module, which will be coming up next.